the fourth episode of StuntBums TV, where we bring you the latest news and events from the world of sport bike freestyle. I'm your host, Leah Petersen, and today we're going to chat with three riders who have one thing in common, and that's a BMW motorcycle. We're going to get Teach Chris McNeil, Mattie Griffin from Ireland, and the world-famous Chris Pfeiffer on the phone to chat about their stunt careers and how BMW fits into the stunt picture. First, we have a few stunt events coming up. And if you're headed to Bulgaria anytime soon, the Bulgarian stunt competition will be back for its second year on June 14th through the 16th. This competition will feature a special guest, Darius, who's going to fly in from America, and stunt legend AC Farias will be in the judges' booth. Also, last weekend in St. Petersburg, the Eastern European Stunt Championship kicked off with Lithuanian rider Aris taking first place in the qualification round. Now for our first guest, Chris Teach McNeil. He's been in the game since the dawn of stunt riding, and he is still riding strong on his fleet of BMW motorcycles.
Hey everybody, my name's Chris McNeil. You may know me as Teach up here in the great state of New Hampshire. Caught me at school today, so I just gave a couple kids attention to get them out of my hair, and here we are with StuntBums. Thanks for having me.
Right on. Okay, so for anyone who is not familiar with your background, just give a brief kind of stunt history.
Well, I started riding the streets of Boston in 2000 and progressed from there, competed in XSBA and XDL pretty much from the beginning, and managed to work my way up to a BMW factory ride, and so that's what I do now. I travel around the country doing demos at dealerships and other, large motorcycle events, MotoGP, World Superbike, in conjunction with competing at XDL whenever I can.
All right, so tell us kind of what sparked your interest in BMW and how that evolved into, your fleet of BMWs now and working for the company.
Well, I don't know that I ever had a specific interest in BMW. I looked at the brand like I think a lot of people my age did, as sort of an old man's bike, and I never really knew anything about it except that they had this weird motor that stuck out the sides. And I remember watching a BMW's race down in Daytona one year, and I was like, this is kind of cool, but also kind of stupid. But then Chris Pfeiffer, pretty much every American rider's hero. I mean, I remember looking up at this guy for many years in my career, and now I can, I'm proud to say that we ride for the same manufacturer, and I've done shows with him, and he's a friend of mine. So it's cool to sort of meet your heroes and, become friends with them. But I remember seeing Pfeiffer come over here and just dominate at Stunt Wars one year on the BMW F800R. I think a couple of years before the bike was even available to the public. And so after seeing that, it was immediately clear what the bikes are capable of and how well balanced and how well designed they are. And BMW's got a reputation for engineering quality, and that's exactly what they did. A year or two after Pfeiffer came over, BMW North America was again down at Stunt Wars, just sort of poking around the scene and looking really to change their image and capture the younger demographic, capture the youth market and the people really under the age of 50. I was approached at that point. I actually was out with a torn ACL. I was judging Stunt Wars, and I was approached by a man named Lawrence Kuykendall, who no longer works for BMW, although I'm still very close friends with him. And he basically offered me an opportunity to come ride BMW motorcycles. And after asking him, what that entailed, where they thought they were going with that, I was quickly assured that, they liked what I represented. They thought that stunt riding was the way to reach the younger demographic, and I still think that that's the most viable way to reach the teenagers to 30-year-olds is through stunt riding. I don't think racing does it nearly as well. So basically they just said, hey, we're sort of in this for the long haul, and I wasn't too sold on their bike at that point in time still, because I didn't know much about it, and I was riding my 600RR. But I was assured that they were in development of a superbike, and that was really the hook that really made me jump in with both feet, because the first couple of years were a struggle on, an inline twin, a belt drive, completely new manufacturer where you can't just cut all the wires to stop the things you don't want. That makes the bike not run. So once I sort of got the assurance from them and developed my relationship with Lawrence that, he was a good guy, he saw the future, it was a long-term deal, and they wanted me to be a brand ambassador, not only because of what I could do on the bike, but just as important to me, what I could do off the bike. I really value being a spokesperson for the sport as well as for my sponsors in BMW. So the fact that they valued that as much as I did, coupled with the emergence of the S1000RR, which is the world's greatest superbike, that really sort of sealed the deal for me, and I've been with them, I want to say, 6 years now.
All right, so last question. If you had to create a metaphor for riding your S1000, what would that be?
The thing about it is it's very powerful and very fun to ride. So it's like a rocket, but at the same time, it's still manageable to a certain degree. So I don't know if it's like anything else out there, because a lot of the leader bikes nowadays, they may come with traction control in different modes, but the nice thing about the BMW that I think is one of the unique features of it in regards to stunt riding is that the throttle response is really tailored to the mode. So when I run my bike, in something other than slick or race mode, not only does it decrease the power a little bit while maintaining the torque, but it makes the throttle a little less sensitive. So in a sense, it's much easier to be a throttle jockey than it is on a typical leader bike, although it is definitely harder than a 600. So I don't know if I have a good metaphor. It's like riding a rocket. You really just need to strap in and hang on, and you never know what's going to end up happening. And I think that I ride like that, and I think that's reflected in some of the crashes that I have. Is 1 minute I'm in control, and literally in the blink of an eye I'm tumbling down the road. So that's to be expected. It's par for the course. And definitely with my style, I think that I end up in that position upside down a little more often than I would like to. But the bike fits me perfectly. I mean, it's aggressive, it's super fun, and it's got a lot of power, and that's how I like to ride, aggressive and having fun.
Perfect. All right, Teach, thank you so much for your time, and that was great.
Thank you, StuntBums. See you guys at the lot and on the streets.
Our next rider is from Ireland, a country where stunt riding is just starting to get a little traction in the last couple of years. He stunts an F800, and we're going to chat about his pro stunter lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Mattie Griffin, BMW stunt rider from Ireland. I've been riding since 2004, and just the last 3 years riding for BMW.
Tell us just a little bit about stunt riding in Ireland, kind of the culture and what the community is like up there.
Yeah, stunt riding in Ireland has actually gotten quite big in the last couple of years. We've got some Irish rounds now of the Stunt Riding League. When I started, there was probably like a handful of guys in Ireland stunt riding. It wasn't really, not really many people knew of stunt riding, but I mean, I suppose with the internet in the last few years and stuff, lots of more people are getting into it.
So explain a little bit about how you came in contact with BMW, kind of what sparked your interest initially, and how they came to support your riding career.
Yeah, well, I mean, back when I just started riding, I wouldn't consider it professional. A good guy I met that worked for BMW actually hired me to do some demonstrations on new models of BMW in Ireland, and also got as far as England with those demonstrations with like the HP2 and this couple of new models that were out at that time. So I mean, that's how I initially got introduced to the staff of BMW, and I suppose in 2009 I was at a show in London, and I met the staff of BMW, which they knew me. They're like, how are things going? I was like, not too bad. They're like, are you sponsored right now? I was like, no. And they said, let's introduce you to the head guy. And I was like, yeah, perfect, I'd love to. And BMW is always a brand I wanted to get, and I didn't think it would come about like that, but it did. So things are going strong.
Great. All right, and tell us a bit about your stunt bike, what model it is, and also what you do to prepare it for stunt riding.
Yeah, the bike I ride at the moment is a BMW F800R. I've got two of those, and it's basically stock bike frame, engine, suspension, everything is stock. You know, you've got the usual mods, the handbrake and bigger rear disc, bigger sprocket, some strengthened foot pegs, and you've got your foot rail, you know, just mostly those kind of things, the usual things. But I mean, it's funny, you go to a show and a lot of people see you do what you do, and they think the complete bike is like, there's nothing standard, that it's all designed to do this or whatever, you know, but no, it's pretty stock. So
do you have to do any engine modifications to keep it running strong?
Luckily enough, with the F800, all I seem to need to do is put like an extra litre of oil in it, or just under a litre of oil, and I mean, you just don't leave it on the rail too long, or at 12 o'clock or whatever, and you know, don't redline it up there. And you know, I've got my oil light fitted there, and the LED light, so it lets me know when it's time to get it back down on two wheels. So yeah, luckily enough, I don't have too much problems like that, and I mean, I've never even had any problems with the engine or anything from day one. So it's good, you know. I'm really happy with the bike.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, like probably 80% of the riders, or 70% of the riders, are probably riding the 636. You know, it is a good bike for stunting. The BMW, there's a couple of things I think I like about it. It is different. You know, you do stand out. It is a bigger bike. You know, it takes a little bit of time. You know, a lot of guys that would ride 636, or you know, the Jap bikes, they'll jump on it and it'll feel completely alien. It feels completely different, and they like probably don't like it. But I mean, when I jumped on it first, I thought, oh god, I don't know, this feels a lot different. And after like couple of weeks, I loved it, and you know, I think it's a great bike now. I love it for stunting.
Now for our final interview, it's none other than the world famous Red Bull BMW rider, Chris Pfeiffer. So we'll start with the first question, which is quite simple, and that's just tell us your general story of how you got into motorcycle stunt riding.
Well, you know, I used to be a trials competition rider, and I always had an eye on guys doing tricks on trials bikes. And there was a guy from France, his name is Jean-Pierre Goua, and I was a big fan of him, and I always tried to see him live in Munich. And he was my first inspiration to do wheelies on trials bikes. And later on, I got a little bit more into this field, and I got in touch, or I got to know about AC Farias. And he was my idol. So he was actually the reason for me to start riding on street bikes. And mainly AC is the reason for my stunt riding now.
Okay, so tell us how you began to work with BMW and their first thoughts about what the sport was. Yeah,
BMW had a stunt rider before me. They were working with Jean-Pierre Goua, the guy that I mentioned in the beginning. He did some wheelies on GS bikes, and it was not really stunt riding. It was more like doing whatever you can do on a normal BMW touring bike or enduro bike. And they saw that these shows are pretty good, but they wanted something fresh. They wanted another style, and somehow they saw my shows. I was riding Ducati in this time. They saw me at MotoGP or wherever, and I knew the guys from motorsport at BMW. And yeah, suddenly we got in touch and started a cooperation. They are very happy. They are still very happy, and I'm super happy as well. So it was not like they had a bad thinking about stunt riding in the beginning. No, BMW was actually probably one of the first brands ever doing shows on their bikes with Jean-Pierre Goua, I think in the early 90s already.
Perfect. And speak a little bit about your stunt bike that you use primarily and what the major stunt modifications are for it.
Well, obviously I use the normal modifications like we all do. Handbrake, big sprocket, cage, wheelie bar. Okay, my bar is a bit different. Pegs, I ride a stock engine, stock frame, stock wheels, normal brakes, but we changed many details. I also changed the mapping a bit to have a smoother power delivery, and I think it's a little bit more effort to prepare a BMW compared to a Kawi, but in the end you have a very cool engine if you love two-cylinder engines, and I'm a big fan of torque. I love this way of riding, more riding on throttle than only riding on idle and braking against it. So it's a different style of riding.
And the last question, which you kind of spoke about, but what is your advice for riders who want to start riding a BMW? You know, I know with the normal Kawasaki's and Hondas, it's quite easy to find all the information you need about setting them up or fixing them if they become broken. So what is your initial advice for where people can find information about the BMW to successfully stunt them?
Well, it's a bit more difficult to build a BMW. You can't order a kit, so you have to build everything by yourself. I think all the riders like me, Mattie Griffin and so on, we are all very helpful. If somebody really wants to build a bike, they will get information. You have to be aware that it's a pretty long bike and maybe a bit more heavy than the 600 sports bikes. And the big strength is the engine.
Okay. Perfect. Well, that was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And big thanks to AC Farias again. I mentioned him in the beginning, and actually he was the man who made us starting with stunt riding, and I'm so thankful that I met AC in the mid-90s.
Perfect.
Changed my life, AC.
Shout out to AC Farias.
Je suis très content to be with all the rides. For me, it's like a family. And I hope I stay more years in that sport because I have to see the evolution from the sport now. I have possibility to be motivated and inspired from another riders. I have beaucoup de nouvelles figures. And pour moi, c'est très belle, très belle.
Big thanks to Teach, Mattie, and Chris for taking the time to chat about their careers and how BMW supports our sport. Remember to follow StuntBums.com for daily news and videos on stunt riding, and I'll see you next time.